This is Cohort, Brian. Same year, same time. But in this universe, Christianity never existed, which means the dark ages of scientific repression never occurred, and thus humanity is 1,000 years more advanced.
One of the pillars of new atheism is that religions like Christianity are evil, detrimental for society, and need to go away for the benefit of humanity. However, for some reason, I never see any data to back this up. I just keep hearing this claim like it is a fact, when actually, the data suggests otherwise. Not only does scientific research suggest that Christianity is beneficial for individuals and societies, but there is also the research that shows Christianity has helped to build the world we live in today. And most importantly, there is not just a little evidence, but dozens of points that can be made, which shows the benefits Christianity has given us. But first we need to address is the fact that there have been those who claim to be followers of Christ who have committed very evil and terrible acts, and claiming to do so for the benefit of Christ and his kingdom. This needs to be addressed and condemned for what it is, evil people committing evil acts. But the mistake of new atheists is to attribute the cause of this evil to Christianity, as this just assumes these atrocious acts had to come from Christianity, while discounting other factors that could have really caused this. This is actually known as an attribution error, and one social psychologist has directly called out the new atheist movement for committing this error. This would be the same as if I said atheism was the only thing which caused Stalin and Mao to become murdering savage dictators. Shouldn't we look at all the factors that turned them to evil, instead of just saying their belief about God made them murder millions of people? This whole argument breaks down when we note that Jesus taught love and peace instead of war and torture. It was Soren Kierkegaard that noted that Christendom's violence was not Christian, for the very simple reason that it was dramatically opposed to what Christ taught. Jesus taught to turn the other cheek, love your enemies, and pray for those who persecute you. When the fighting starts, instead of participating, flee to the mountains. It was Paul that taught Christians should live peaceful lives and care for their families, and to live in peace with all men. As they say in Misreading Scripture with Western Eyes, we need to stop writing Scripture on the side of bombs. We are rather confident such a practice doesn't meet the WWJD criteria. Christians should echo the psalmist, "Too long have I lived in among those who hate peace. I am for peace, but when I speak, they are for war." Any person who claims to follow Christ, yet wages war in his name, is clearly not following his teachings, but a twisted, distorted view of Christianity, completely opposite of what it is supposed to be. If that is the case, then those who claim to be killing in the name of Christ could not have gotten it from the teachings of Christ. As John Lennox says, new atheists inexcusably confuse the evils of renegade Christendom with the teachings of Christ, and thus think that the violence is part and parcel of Christian faith, whereas the Christian faith itself repudiates violence and religious exploitation. The new atheists ought to be applauding Christ, not condemning him. Now ironically, secular critics of Christianity are using Christian-based morals to denounce it. The historian C. John Somerville argues in his book that the moral views prior to the advent of Christianity was far different than what modern people have today, and that Christianity is responsible for shaping our moral views in the West. To illustrate this, Somerville points out pre-Christian societies like the Anglo-Saxons had honor-based societies, where earning respect and honor from others was the most important thing, whereas the incoming Christian monks prided charity, service, and putting others before yourself. So Somerville would ask his students, if you see an old lady with a purse, why is it wrong to take it from her? The answer for the Anglo-Saxons and other honor-based cultures would be if you pick on the weak, you will be despised, because no one will respect you if you do not respect yourself, which is clearly a self-centered ethic. However, among his students, the answer for not stealing the purse was that it was wrong because it would cause harm and turmoil to the lady. Somerville argues Christianity changed our ethical views away from honor-based ideas where pride was valued to societies that valued humility, peace, service to others, and loving your neighbor. So if you think it'd be more ethical to care for your neighbor than your own honor, then you have Christianity to thank for playing a role in shaping that.
If Jesus had never been born, we would have had no Francis of Assisi, no William Wilberforce, no Mother Teresa. The world would have been a very cruel and a heartless place.
But Christianity is also argued to have given rise to science in the Western world by several historians. They readily point out ancient pagans believed the world was imbued with supernatural mysteries, natural gods, fates, fairies, and other mystical beings, whereas those who held to Judeo-Christian values didn't view the world this way. For them, the world was a work of cosmic engineering. The sun wasn't a god, but a lamp that followed the laws of the Creator. The animals were not to be worshipped, but were under the stewardship of man. The spread of Judeo-Christian values disenchanted the world and gave it a scientific view. For Christians, it followed natural laws because it was set up by a lawgiver.
Just about every major branch of science that has been created was originated by people who believed in the Bible. They believed that they were, in the words of Johannes Kepler, thinking God's thoughts after him.
It's certainly true, by and large, in the English-speaking world, the founders of modern science would have expressed fairly strong religious views. They felt this is a world made by a creator who has impressed the creator's will on the world.
Until relatively recently, all the great scientists were also great Christians.
This is the Alfred North Whitehead thesis, and it has been argued by several historians, backed by the evidence of the Bible, rise of Christianity, and how Christians viewed the world. E.O. Wilson asked the question, why didn't science rise in China, which had far more technology than Europe? He concluded, of probably even greater importance, Chinese scholars abandoned the idea of a supreme being with personal and creative properties. No rational author of nature existed in their universe. Consequently, the objects they meticulously described did not follow universal principles, but instead operated within particular rules followed by those entities in the cosmic order. In the absence of a compelling need for the notion of general laws, thoughts in the mind of God, so to speak, little or no research was made for them. So Christianity, far from being detrimental on society, has helped to build modern ethics and science. And I have barely scratched the surface. Christianity helped increase literacy.
Christians have brought literacy to hundreds of millions of people of all sorts of languages by codifying those languages in the first place.
There are hundreds of languages that were first set to writing by Christian missionaries in order to translate the Bible into their own tongue. Let me give an example. It's amazing that the writing that the former Soviet Union used was actually first created by two Christian missionaries, in fact two brothers, St. Cyril and Methodius, and it's even called the Cyrillic alphabet.
Secondly, Christianity played a pivotal role in saving Western civilization from extinction after barbarians ushered in the Dark Ages by conquering the Roman Empire in the 5th and 6th centuries.
I think it's no accident that it was the Christian church which single-handedly kept human culture alive in the early medieval world, when society had totally gone south, as it were, when we have a decay in civilization after the barbarian conquest of Rome. If it hadn't been for the Christian church, through its monks patiently recopying manuscripts, staffing monastery libraries, having catechetical schools associated with the cathedral chapters, that I don't know what may have happened to classical culture. We might have lost it entirely.
It was none other than Christianity that first expanded education to include women in many non-Christian cultures that saw women as inferior or uneducable.
When missionaries began teaching girls in India, the pundits mocked at it. They said, what you're teaching girls, you might as well teach cows.
So the idea Christianity has been detrimental is an unfounded fairy tale. But couldn't one turn the attention to the present? Perhaps one could argue that religion is detrimental for society now and preventing civilization from moving forward. But scientific research also shows the opposite of this idea. Dozens upon dozens of studies show that religion is extremely beneficial and promotes ethical behavior in several different ways. Now, to be fair, there are some studies that show that religion doesn't correlate to any increase in ethical behavior. However, there are far more studies that show religion increases ethical behavior, and there are also meta-analysis studies, which are the highest and most reliable study out there. A meta-analysis study combines the results from all the studies that have been done on the subject to identify patterns among various results from different studies. They even include studies which show an opposite effect. After combining all results into one, the overall effect of every study combined is determined. So what do the meta-analysis studies say? Is religion beneficial? Well, let's look at this one from 2009, which actually looked at various meta-analysis studies done in the Western world where Christianity is most prevalent and Judeo-Christian values are encouraged. The results they found were that a meta-analytic review of 147 independent effect sizes found that religiousness was associated with lower rates of depression. A 2-decade-old meta-analysis concluded that religiousness was positively associated with subjective well-being. A recent meta-analytic review of data from 49 studies also concluded that positive forms of religious coping were positively associated with scores on measures of positive psychological outcomes, such as satisfaction with life and happiness. A meta-analysis of 60 effect sizes revealed that religiousness is associated with lower rates of crime and delinquency, and is even more strongly associated with lower rates of victimless crimes, such as gambling and drug use. A meta-analysis of 15 studies on the association of religiousness and school achievement in Black and Hispanic American youth found that religiousness was positively associated with grade point average and achievement test scores. And this is only the beginning. They also showed a meta-analytical review that married religious adults are more likely to stay married, a meta-analytical review that agreeableness and conscientiousness correlates with religiousness, that religion is tied to decreased levels of psychoticism. Religiousness was strongly positively associated with being respectful, helpful, reasonable, polite, self-disciplined, honoring elders, and enjoying life, and more and more and more. I am practically just rambling on now, but I could do this for another 20 or 30 minutes, going through countless studies showing the overwhelming benefits religion has on people and how this benefits society. It is no wonder psychiatrist Andrew Sims says, the advantageous effect of religious belief and spirituality on mental and physical health is one of the best kept secrets in psychiatry and medicine generally. If the findings of a huge volume of research on this topic had gone in the opposite direction, and it had been found that religion damages your mental health, it would have been front page news in every newspaper in the land.
There's a lot that I admire and respect about Christianity, and if I had to pick 3 things that I think of when I think of Christianity, I would think number 1 of love, I would think number 2 peace or nonviolence, and I would think 3 forgiveness. I think these are absolutely core elements of Christianity, I hope, and I think they should be definitely at the heart of any civil society. And I absolutely agree that Christianity has contributed much to civilization in terms of moral progress, and there's no question that Christians give more today in terms of charity and volunteering and service than secular Americans.
So it dumbfounds me that new atheists can claim Christianity is detrimental and evil, when it has done so much good and still does so much good. Do I really need to go through and cite the number of Christian charities that make a profound difference every day? The only conclusion that I can come to about new atheists that claim this is that they are ignorant of the science and didn't bother to check, or they are misleading people on purpose to further their anti-religion agenda. And for the sake of charity, I hope it is the former. So to wrap up, I want to note 3 things. First, I'm not saying non-religious people will always have the opposite effect, or that all religious people in the Western world will have these positive effects. We should remember there are always exceptions to the general trend. There are plenty of non-religious people who can live perfectly decent lives, but overall, Christianity does have a positive effect on societies at large. And to argue it doesn't is laughable and ignorant. Second, even if you don't think Christianity is true, you cannot deny these incredible benefits it has given us and still gives us. Anyone who says otherwise hasn't done their research. Finally, if you think that religion will eventually go away, then I have to point out that it's probably not going to happen. Scientist Michael Bloom published a study called The Reproductive Benefits of Religious Affiliation, where he points out evolution favors religiousness so strongly for its increasing procreation effects that over time, religion has become embedded in our genes. So religions like Christianity are not going anywhere, and neither are the enormous benefits they have brought. Thank God.